Okay, yes, guys, welcome to another video on the football bias. I'm joined by the boy Thizo yet again. It's your boy Thebe, and yes, international break is over.
Yeah,
I won't lie, man, this has been kind of peaceful for me because my own team or your team as well, the Gunners have been, yeah, let's just say they haven't been very good. So I've quite enjoyed this international break. Like, it's been peaceful, South Africa, Bafana are winning, Springboks are winning. It's just I like this. But it again, like my boy TJ from San Andreas would say, here we go again. So here we
I
go. Otherwise, brother, are you good?
easy, my bro. How are you?
I'm easy, bro. And I hope everybody else is good. So if you're watching, please like, subscribe, get involved, comment, do all that fun stuff. So there's something that I've been meaning to talk about. I don't know if you are a viewer of the Football Bias. We had a heated argument about this months ago. And the boy Shingai was on it. I don't recall rather if you remember this chat. We were talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Kylian Mbappe. It's a very tough one. I don't even know where to begin with this chat. I just want to dissect what is happening with him, with Real Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti, just everything that's happening with Real Madrid. What I think how to start it off, what do you make of before we get to Mbappe, just of Real Madrid's form when you're watching them? What do you make of what you see?
I think it's a lot of change all at once.
Mm.
And by virtue of that, I mean, Real Madrid are always going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I think the downside to how they do things is because you can attract almost anyone and you can get almost anyone you want, more often than not, you end up getting those players, but you don't really get time to bet them in because they come in with so much expectation.
Mm.
And at the same time, in Real Madrid's case, you're losing a lot of leadership, you're losing a lot of control, tempo setting, um, like in the form of players like Tony Kroos. And then I think you're just also very unfortunate when it comes to injuries. I think
Facts.
they've been unfortunate in that regard. So there's been a lot of factors that go into why this season has been like very up and down.
But do you feel for a club like Real Madrid when we talk about injuries? I mean, injuries like every club goes through them. But when we speak the same way about Manchester City, when I look at these clubs and the money, the squads that they have that they've built over time, personally, I don't feel sorry for them or I don't like give them any leeway when it comes specifically to injuries because they have the resources and the know-how and experience to have built a squad to withstand, not necessarily withstand the amount of injuries. Obviously, it depends. I mean, if you have five defenders in your squad and four of them are injured, that can really plague you. But do you feel we should rather feel sorry for them when it comes to those injuries, or is it just a thing of like, yo, just deal with it?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that um, for me, I think they should, right? They should have enough to like cope with injuries. But at the same time, you don't really want a club like Madrid to go through injury crises because
Mm.
they'll like mess around and go get like three top class center backs, you
True.
know, and just mess the whole world up. And it's just like they
Mm.
can do that, you
Yeah.
know. They could come in and next thing they're scooping up like an Upamecano from Bayern and come and
Mm.
take Saliba as well, at
True.
Arsenal. And it's just like, how I wish you didn't go through something
Mm.
like that. Um, and we've kind of seen that they're like experienced players are kind of at
Mm.
the twilight years of their career.
Mm.
You're looking at players like Rudiger, who's maybe he's got a year, two at the top level. So now would probably be a good time to kind of bed in some
Mm.
new players. We've seen with Eder Militao, they can't really rely on him because it's so unfortunate. He's been quite unfortunate with injuries.
Mm.
They've lost Danny Carvajal, and he was already at the
Yeah.
tail end of his career. Now he's like out with a potentially like 18-month injury, you know? So for me, I would prefer if they didn't go through injury crises because of what they can do in the market, you
Mm.
know? And also the impact that that has on the rest of the like footballing world, you know?
Yeah.
When you look at like major transfers, as much as there's other clubs in the world, like the English clubs are doing a better business now, it still like comes down to what are Madrid and Barca doing,
Mm.
you know? And if they're gonna start spending like silly money on players, to to address that injury crisis, it can throw off the market, and we're
Mm.
already living in a silly market right now, silly
Yeah.
transfer market.
I'd have to agree
So
with
I think
that.
from
Mm.
yeah, I think from a like a wide perspective, I think it can
Mm.
have a lot of like ramifications. But I think from a purely football perspective,
Mm.
just get on with it. You know, it's part of football. It's not unique to you.
Mm.
Everyone's struggling with injuries. Everyone's got a lot of players playing games. So I don't feel sorry for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I just personally for me, right, and I stand to be corrected. But when I look at how they've built the squad that they have now over the years, I feel like I haven't really been sold with how Florentino's been going about it. Because when I look at the recent players that they've brought in, like even defensively, and credit to the coaching because when Ede Militao came, first of all, I was like, I don't know. But he's somewhat went on to stake his claim to be like, yo, I am one of the best center backs in Spain, potentially the
Hmm.
world. I don't know about that. But even the way that they went about like acquiring Jude Bellingham, you know, when you look at where he was playing and what he did best for Dortmund, even at Birmingham, for England, and then you look at Real Madrid, when they bought him, it was like, okay, where's he going to play? Because they've got Kroos, they've got Modric at the time, Valverde, Tchouaméni, Camavinga. You're like, where's this guy going to play? And to the expertise of Carlo Ancelotti, he found a position for him, right? And then you
Hmm.
move on a year later from that, whereby Jude Bellingham essentially was a false nine, one of the best in the league, right? Potential Ballon d'Or winner. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then you fast forward a year later, and now we get to the meat of the conversation. Where if I was a board member sitting in Madrid, I remember thinking about this, like, okay, guys, we've been chasing Mbappe for however, like 3, 4 years, whatever it's been happening. There's even we know
Yeah.
the infamous picture with Cristiano Ronaldo when he was a kid. They've been wanting Kylian Mbappe. But then at the end of last season, when you sit down and you're planning, I personally think they should have been like, guys, do we really need Mbappe? Because when we look at how like the way PSG play, the press, the media, articles about Mbappe, it's clear that this guy favors to be a left winger. Very clear.
Hmm.
And also from Mbappe's position, being someone in Mbappe's team, we have to then ask the question like, bro, do you really think that going to this team who has arguably the best left winger in world football, which is the position that you arguably want to play? You've came out, right? Remember prior to the World Cup, the last World Cup, there was the whole bust up with
Yeah.
Giroud and Benzema to say this guy doesn't like playing number nine. He likes to come off the
Mm.
left. Fede, he might drift within the central spaces pertaining to whatever the game of the tactics or the opposition of that game. So for him to be like, I want to go to the best club in the world, like that's ambition. It's ambitious. I mess with that. I wanted to see that. Everybody wanted to see that. Kylian Mbappe and Real
Yeah.
Madrid super team. We're like people were coming out like, how the hell are we going to compete with this super team, right? And then now when you watch it, it's like everything that somebody might have been thought to be a hater, right? By coming out and saying these things, it's somewhat come to fruition, albeit it's too early or somewhat early in the season.
Mm.
But for me,
Mm.
it just raises a lot of questions to say, like, you've seen what Jude Bellingham was doing. You've seen what we need in the team. We need a proper number nine. Because Joselu wasn't the best, but when he played, Real Madrid often looked better last season. And then now you're like, Kylian Mbappe, will he come in and be that number nine that we need, which is like a Karim Benzema fold? You can drop deep, you can hold the player up, you want to bring in, you want to get the wingers, which is essentially what Jude Bellingham did, but not like to a striker. He had that thing to just get in those positions and, get the sniff.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of this move. Fede, like we it's too early. It has chances to be successful. But what do you make of Kylian Mbappe's performances? Do you think that Real Madrid, Kylian Mbappe, as loan institutions, as loan like assets, or the word is escaping me. Now, when you join these two together, something is just not mashing up, bro. So, what do you owe that to?
I think it's a victim of like Madrid syndrome, where you're coming into an already successful club. I
Mm.
mean, they won the Champions League before you get there, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, what are you adding to us that we don't already have?
Exactly.
Um, but I think it was when you look at kind of how they won the Champions League, they weren't blowing anyone away, you know?
Mm.
Um, they have a lot of steel, they have a lot of metal belief. But I think when you look pound for pound, you look at even the final. If Dortmund had stuck their chances away, Madrid would have been beaten
Facts.
comfortably in that final, you know?
Mm.
So it's not that they are playing teams, they're playing teams off the field. And when you look at even Jude's role last season, it was kind of like a Swiss Army knife where it's like, I need
Mm.
you to help out in midfield, but I also need you to chip in with goals. And it
Mm.
worked because of the type of player Jude is. He wants to be everywhere, he
Mm.
wants to be part of everything. And I think right now that's chaotic because you've already got a situation where like Mbappe is a drifter, right? And he
Mm.
more often than not he drifts left, right? And there's already a lot of attention and focus left because of Vinny. You know,
Mm.
so I think it was always gonna take time to figure out. I think it's unfair to try and make a judgment right now
Yeah.
because of how early it is and because of the level of talent also. You know, we're not talking about a situation where Ronaldo's coming into Madrid, so the rest of the team, be it like a Benzema and a Di Maria, have to defer to him, you
Mm.
know, where it's just like you understand that it's his team now. As much as Mbappe is a megastar, we're talking about how Jude was in the conversation for Ballon d'Or, and
Mm.
Vinny arguably should have won the Ballon d'Or. You know, so we're talking about an elite level of talent that he's coming into that's already achieving at the highest level. You know, so
Mm.
it's not as simple as let's just defer to this guy. So I think it's gonna take a lot of work for it to actually like come to fruition. And I think the challenge with Carlo like being at the head of that is that you kind of know that it's not a long-term thing, you know.
Mm.
So for me it almost feels like this is a free hit for Madrid where it's just like let's do what we can do, but kind of waiting for like who's the next coach who's gonna come in. And that's probably one of the first things like when they're interviewing coaches
Mm.
that they're gonna want to know like how are you gonna fix our team, because I don't think it's just a attack thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of things going wrong at once because we've heard that
Mm.
they're open to the prospect of letting Tramini go, right? Who's
Mm.
really the only out and out six that they have, you know, after Tony Kroos left. What's that gonna look like? Type of thing. What's the midfield gonna look
Mm-hmm.
like? Because where's Valverde gonna play? Because you know he's gonna play. Are you
Yeah.
gonna play him on the wing? Are you gonna play him in the midfield? So I think there's a lot of things that Madrid are trying to figure out, and I think it's difficult to do with a coach that isn't going to be there long term. But this is very clearly a long term project. You know,
Yeah, that's very
I,
true.
I
Yeah, it
think
is. It is a
yeah,
long-term project. It's just very funny for me because I was looking at the heat maps between Mbappe and Vinicius, bro. And you like it looks somewhat similar, like very much. And like with
yeah,
Vinicius going more to the left, like it's more darker red if you've seen a heat map. But when you look at
yeah,
it, bro, like it's very, very, very similar. And um, there was even a game, I can't remember which game it was, but like you could literally see him. Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo all on the left.
Yeah.
And then you got the only guy on the right is Jude Bellingham. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? And I think Thierry Henry broke it down like very, very well in the last Champions League game with Real Madrid, whereby he's like, you have Jude Bellingham, who is effectively no longer the false nine, but he's playing in a attacking midfield role, and he's the one
Yeah.
busting the guts to get beyond the defenders, beyond the last man, while your number nine is trying to drift and do all of these things, and he's probably trying to get
Hmm.
on the ball, trying to make things happen. Because like when you're a striker, right? Um, it's very difficult because you need to try and stay in the game, which is why I like strikers like Erling Haaland, because you won't see him in the game for 60 minutes, but then you give him a sniff and it's
Mm.
like bang, bang, goal. And Mbappe is not that type of player. I feel like he needs to get a
No,
rhythm
no.
going. He needs to be within the thick of things, getting the ball, making a turn here, 1-2 here, you know what I mean? Like he needs to be within that groove to get things going. But just to give the other side, to give the benefit of the doubt, like you said, it is a little bit early. So if you're playing devil's advocate, do you think that because if you're looking at it, it's his first year playing outside of France, right? New
Hmm.
teammates, new surroundings, new ways of working, new fans, and the Real Madrid fans are very, very particular. Like that's one of the clubs
Hmm.
where we ain't giving you time, especially if you are Kylian Mbappe. If you Endrick or Ada Goulet, you've
Yeah.
got time. We'll give you time. But you are Kylian Mbappe. Like we ain't giving you time, bro. You gotta pull up and show us that you the guy. And I think that's very hard to get to grips with when you are the new guy on the block. Effectively, he is the new guy. He might be the guy, but he's still effectively a new guy. And then when you factor in
Hmm.
like Real Madrid losing Toni Kroos, not replacing him, like you said, that's leadership that you're losing there. And I feel like Toni Kroos would be, if you're going back to the World Cup where France won, Toni Kroos would be the Pogba of Madrid, whereby you literally just you give him a look and then he's on, and you know
And he
that Kroos is
knows.
gonna find you.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like that's what Mbappe thrives on. If he's going to be the guy on the shoulder, you need to find those
Hmm.
balls. And I don't think there's anybody in that Madrid midfield that can just ping one out. Like just Modric can, Valverde can, they all can. But to that level of a Kroos or a Pogba at his pump, there's nobody like giving him that type of service. So meaning now he needs to get into the 1-2s and the linking and those things take chemistry. Do you think that
Mm.
the chemistry in the team is conducive to let Kylian Mbappe flourish? Because like you said, it's Real Madrid. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of
Yep.
guys who want to be that guy. So do you essentially think that this will eventually be successful and there's nothing here to worry about? If Carlo doesn't find it, then whoever the next coach is, whether it be it Xabi Alonso, who is the front runner, will eventually find it,
Yep.
and it's just a matter of getting the right pieces into the places.
I believe so because the reason why Madrid has been able to be as successful as it has is because winning is more important than any individual thing,
Mm.
you know? It doesn't matter how many egos are on the pitch. It's just like, yo, if it means I need to put my ego aside for us to get the win, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. So it's winning first. Um, whether that means you change your role, whether that means someone else needs to be brought in, which I genuinely believe that's eventually going to be the case because when you talk about their creative players, even Jude himself, right,
Mm.
who's playing in that attacking midfield role, is not finding an incisive pass,
Mm.
to slip Mbappe in. That's not his role because he also wants to be given service. And I
Exactly.
think most of the attackers are reliant on service, but now they're reliant on each other to be giving each other service. That's not going to happen,
Mm.
you know? So I think throughout the season, it's literally just going to be how far can our talent get us, our individual talent get us, until they find pieces that they can put together, which will allow the team to come together. I think they could have benefited a lot from convincing Tony Kroos to play one more season.
Hmm.
I think this whole project would be in a much better place. but that isn't the case, and I think until they can address what's happening in midfield, we should be very realistic about like how far they can get in terms of like what they're going to do this season. you know I genuinely don't believe that this project is one that could or would fail, you know long
Mm.
term, but I also don't realistically see Madrid winning anything this season.
Hey man, I wouldn't bet my house on that because, bro, these guys just know how to get it done. Like we even remember the Champions League game against Dortmund. They were what effectively 2-0 down, and I was like, yo, man, they're not winning this. They're not winning this, and they just blitzed them in the second half. So it's very clear to see that they have it in them. It's just about like finding the right tactics or the right places. And also, I feel like Mbappe also just needs to somewhat humble himself and just if if because it's a team sport, and I see a lot of individualism in his game. And I've seen
Mm,
this from the jump, from AS Monaco days to PSG to France. He's always me, 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 right? And I've always felt like for him to succeed at Real Madrid, that has to be put aside for the betterment of the team. And I personally don't know who or how they managed to get that out of him. The skills are there, the
mm,
like the goals are there, everything is there. It's just that team thing. I haven't seen that from Kylian Mbappe. I don't know why. Whether it might just be from the cameras, because we don't know these people personally. Be like, you know what I mean, from the cameras, from media. The
sure,
media can
sure.
twist things. I don't know if it's just those types of narratives that are forcing me to think this way, but I personally don't see Kylian Mbappe being that team guy that, yo, if you need me to sprint back 90th minute, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta get back there to tackle this guy. I don't see that happening from Kylian Mbappe. But it's going to be very interesting to see. So we hope to see something positive. But anyway, I think we'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that. So yeah, please everybody like, subscribe, comment. Let us know. Do you think Kylian Mbappe will rise to the occasion, or will he just fade away? Where do you think he goes? Let's say just to throw this out. Let's say we sit here next season and it's just not working. It's just not working. Like maybe him and Vinicius have a falling out. The new coach can't get it out of him, and he's on a lot of money. He's the highest paid player now, effectively, at Real Madrid. What do you think happens in 2 years? Let's say in 2 years you are Florentino, and this shit is just not working, bro. What do you do?
I think Mbappe is probably the last piece of the puzzle you're trying to let go. Um, so even if it doesn't work, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think you'd
Let's
much
say,
sooner.
let me put you in a tough position before we close this. You Florentino, be 2 years into the project, it's not working. You have to let one go. Kylian or Vinicius, who's going?
Me personally,
You personally,
Killian.
yes.
Killian's going because
Mm,
I've seen it work with Vinicius and I haven't seen it work with Killian.
yeah.
Even though I believe Killian is the bigger talent, right?
Mm.
Which is why I say it'll never happen. I think we've seen how Florentino moves. It's not just about your what you've done, it's also
Mm.
about your brand. It's what you bring to the table, you
Facts.
know, as an entire package. And what Mbappe brings versus what Vinny brings
Yeah.
is very different, from the club. But hey, man, if it's 2 years in and it's going how it's going right now,
Mm.
gonna have to have some very difficult conversation.
I agree,
Very,
bro. I
very
agree.
difficult.
Now, I think we'll just close it at that, bro. Otherwise, peace, guys. Please keep it locked on the football bias.